Hey everybody, this is your GM, your backrow Dominus, your GM who currently is not on the team right now, but don't you worry about it. Kale, here to bring you episode 8 of the Stack and Shed series. Now, in this series, we're covering all 32 teams, so everybody gets a chance to be talked about, alright? Now, we're covering a few different topics. They include what went wrong, what do they need, stack or shed, their draft picks, one move I would do, and their cap space. Now, in this episode, we're talking about the Vikings, so buckle up, it's going to get a little bit crazy. All right, let's get into it. So, what went wrong in the Vikings season? And I will venture to say it was inconsistent quarterback play. With the departure of Sam Darnold, there were a lot of questions on if J.J. McCarthy would be able to carry that same momentum that Sam Darnold had in the previous season. Now, unfortunately, that didn't happen, and now the Vikings are at a crossroads where they need to figure out if they're going to give J.J. McCarthy another chance or if they're going to go in a different direction at quarterback. Now, I wasn't expecting J.J. McCarthy to light it up on the field every single week, but what I was expecting was for him to show that he's progressing in all the right areas, that he's comfortable in the pocket, that he's comfortable with his receivers, tight ends, and running backs, and that he's able to execute the routine things. But instead, all we saw was inconsistencies week after week after week. And at quarterback, the most important position on the field, you can't be inconsistent. Now, can you go through a dry spell where you're not playing your best ball? Sure, everybody does. But what you can't do is go through an entire season of being inconsistent. In the 10 games that J.J. McCarthy played, he was 243 attempts for 140 completions, 1,632 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 6.7 yards per attempt, and a 57.6 completion percentage. Now, with that being said, what do the Vikings need? And that is better quarterback play. You guys know that old saying that your mom or your dad would tell you, your attitude dictates your altitude? We're going to tweak that a little bit, okay? Your quarterback play dictates your altitude. But right now, the Vikings' altitude is low, but it can change. As long as J.J. McCarthy can provide average to slightly above average play, they have a chance. But if J.J. McCarthy can't reach that level, then the Vikings need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what they need to do moving forward. Now, with that being said, the question we all need to ask ourselves is stack or shed. And I would venture to say stack. And the reason why I say that is because this team is just a quarterback away from being in the Super Bowl. They have a really good offense. They have a really good defense. All they need is just average to slightly above average quarterback play. Now, when we look at their draft picks, they have their first, their second, they have 2 third-round picks, a 4th, a 5th, a 6th, and 3 7th-round picks, which isn't bad. You have the 18th pick in the first round, which, that's a really good spot. Now, the question is this. What are you going to address in the first round? The 2 positions that come to mind is either safety or defensive tackle. Now, if the Vikings want to go after the safety, the 3 names that come to mind is Adam Thieneman, Caleb Downs, and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Now, out of those 3 options, you may have to trade up to get Caleb Downs or Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Now, the question is this. Would you be willing to trade up, and how high would you be willing to trade up to get one of those safeties? Now, I think defensive tackle is probably a more realistic option because you won't have to trade up in order to get one of the top guys. Now, me personally, I would go after someone like a Caleb Banks or a Lee Hunter. Now, that's mainly in part because Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen may be cut or trade candidates. So with that being said, you may need to address that position high up in the first round. Now, me personally, I think Caleb Banks is a really good option. 6'6", can plug up the middle. That's somebody that you want in your team. Now, if you want to go after Lee Hunter, I still think that's a really good option as well. And since we're talking about draft prospects and the combine and all things related to the draft, I need to go on a little bit of a rant, okay? If you are someone that accepted an invite to the combine, but you're not participating at all, then why the hell are you there? I understand the combine is the hub for all of these players to meet these GMs and head coaches and organizations just to get a feel for who they are, do a little bit of testing, do a little bit of medical work and all that other stuff, right? But if you're not participating in the drills, then why are you there? And I'm only bringing this up because by you accepting an invite and not participating in any of the drills, that's an invite that could have went to somebody that needed the extra bump in their draft stock. We've seen players go from being a 4th round grade to maybe a 2nd or even 1st round grade by doing well at the combine. The only 2 excuses that I would give to prospects is if you're still recovering from an injury or your draft stock is super high and you have a feeling of where you're going to go. Outside of that, you should be participating in the combine to some degree. The only person in this draft class that I would give an excuse for is Fernando Mendoza, and that's solely because we all know where he's going, and that's to the Raiders. Outside of that, everybody needs to be participating in the combine. Ruben Bain, there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to participate in the combine unless you're hurt. Players such as Sonny Styles didn't have to participate in the combine, but he did it just to showcase his skill set. And by doing so, he has now locked himself in to being a top 3 pick. But you know what? I think I need to break it down in a different way so you guys can understand this, okay? By not participating in the combine drills, that is the difference between making $2 million a year to $22 million a year. And I'm bringing up money because we all know the difference in being drafted in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round compared to being drafted in the 1st and 2nd round. That should be motivation for you to work out in these drills. Now, if you don't want to do these drills, again, it's perfectly fine. That's your choice. But just know, if you don't ball out on your pro day, oh, you messed yourself up. You took an unnecessary risk just because you don't want to do it. Now back to the Vikings. Do I think they're going to use all 11 picks in this draft class? No. I think they're going to use some of these draft picks to either trade up or trade down or trade for other players in free agency. Now the one move that I would do is bring in a veteran quarterback. While I understand the Vikings invested a 1st round pick into J.J. McCarthy, it's time for you to go in a different direction. It's time for you to maximize this competitive window that you have right now because you don't know if you're going to be able to replicate this again. You need to bring in a veteran quarterback who is comfortable working with Kevin O'Connell. Now, the 2 names that come to mind is either Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins. I think if you get either one of them, that is a low-risk, high-reward move. And I also think that will provide the veteran mentorship that J.J. McCarthy needs. I think maybe if you just sit him down for a season and let him learn under someone like a Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers, I think it'll light a fire in him to want to be better. Because we're reaching a point where there needs to be a sense of urgency within the Vikings organization to want to win now. Especially towards Kevin O'Connell because he hasn't won a playoff game since being the head coach for this team. When we look at their cap situation, they have negative $36.6 million. Now, I do expect the Vikings to get rid of Javon Hargrave and possibly Jonathan Allen. I also expect for them to make a couple restructures, and I also expect for them to maybe get rid of Ryan Kelly as well. So I don't think the Vikings are in a really bad spot. I think all they need to do is just reshuffle the deck like how every other team does and figure out who's worth the money and who isn't worth the money. Now, do I expect for them to be big players in free agency? No. I think at best the Vikings will be players in that 2nd and 3rd wave of free agency, but only time will tell. But I'm in this episode here. If you guys like what you are listening, please make sure you guys leave a 5-star review on anywhere and everywhere that you can listen to podcasts, okay? We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a few other places. Now, if you want to access those other places, go on Google, type in rss.com Football Junkies Podcast. It should be the first link. When you click on that link, it'll take you to our rss.com page where you can listen to this podcast on your online browser. There should be a box that says listen to. When you click on that box, it'll give you a plethora of different places that you can listen to this podcast. Now, for my YouTube people, you can follow us there at Football Junkies Pod. Football Junkies Pod. Now, we have a link tree in our bio. When you click on that link tree, it'll take you to anywhere and everywhere that we have Football Junkies content, okay? Now, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, turn the notification bell on, leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on anything and everything that I've covered in this episode as well as other episodes, all right? Let's have a debate. Now, you can follow me on Instagram at Football_Junkies Pod, all right? Football_Junkies Pod. Junkies Pod is not what? It is together, not spaced, okay? It is together, not spaced. Football_Junkies Pod. You can follow me on TikTok at Football Junkies Pod. Football Junkies Pod. You guys are going to get a boatload of clips in a small amount of time. Now, moving forward, whenever I post on TikTok, just know that the link to the episode will not be in the post. So make sure you guys follow us on our YouTube page at Football Junkies Pod. Now, you can follow us on Blue Sky at GMKale. GMKAILE. GMKAILE, all right? You can follow us on Twitter at GMKale. GMKAILE, K-A-I-L-E. GMKAILE. As always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for listening to the best football podcast that you can listen to on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis. And as always, this is your GM Kale signing out. Peace and love. Later, guys.